Where are your people? Do you have any response for me? Where are your people? Is it Benjamin and friends? Do you have any news from your people? Can I be heard? If I can, Benjamin and others, do you have news from your people as to why they are not in?
Doug, please, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Please, no news yet, but I think they will be joining soon.
Very well. Thank you very much, Elizabeth. So we will start, and kindly let the house be aware that I'll be in on time. Okay, so let that go to the class. I'll be in on time. Okay,
All right, Doug, we'll do that.
very well. Thank you, Elizabeth. Okay, now good morning to everyone, and you are welcome on board to the conversations around ethics and corporate governance. And it is imperative for me to state that this course is under the leadership of the good Professor Abraham Anson, who is of the School of Business. In fact, he's the HOD, the head of department for the Department of Management at the School of Business. So he's the leader for the course. And in the meantime, under his direction, I've been fielded to have conversations in relation to ethics and corporate governance to you all. And so I bring you profound greetings from the good professor, the leader of the course, and I also greet you. Let us know that these conversations on ethics and corporate governance will be, I think, for 4 meetings, is it? And each meeting would have 3 key topics that we'll be looking at. That would be our mainstay for our conversation. Now, there's a lot going on in the space of business, and so it's imperative for us to know what corporate governance is, what ethics is, and how we are able to run a business that will not be only successful at meeting the profits, but would also do good by all persons in the community. Now, I am Eche. You could call me Eche, and that would be it. You call me Eche, and I'm okay. I do not prefer say, neither do I prefer any other accolade. I am Eche. Just call me Eche. Now, by doing that, the topics we'll be covering, at least this weekend, will be the introduction to ethics. We'll look at some propounders of what ethics is and some of their reasoning. We also look at what gives people the impetus to do right, i.e., the foundation of ethical behavior. We need to be sure, where do we draw our values and attitudes from so that we'll be self-aware. Then we'll go into the discussion looking also at the theories of ethics, an interesting area. And we'll have conversations around how different theorists have been able to propound views that sometimes contradict each other, but all in the view of exploring the meaning of what is good and what is bad. Next weekend, if God grants our wish, we'll look at business ethics proper in its functional areas as it relates to marketing, finance, human resource, production, and information technology, amidst other ones. We'll also then look at how to implement the ethics program in an organization. Trust that we'll have a good time together. The next weekend after next week, would have the opportunity to explore the concept of corporate governance. And it might be told you that the course is ethics and corporate governance. So we use 2 weeks, hopefully, to clean up our rooms on ethics and bring to the table corporate governance. And we'll have a very nice discussion on it as it relates to their theories also, and the directors and the board structure. Then the final weekend, we'll be looking at the legal and regulatory aspects of corporate governance. Then obviously, there are people who hold the view that corporate governance does not apply in in the public sector, I beg your pardon. The point would now be made that it is profoundly clear after our class that corporate governance also operates in public services. Finally, we'll look at the very enigmatic concept called corporate social responsibility. What is it? What's the view out there? What really are researchers thinking corporate social responsibility to be? And how do we use that as a force that can make businesses better? Your attendance to class is required. The assessment mode would be altered based on your schedule, but ultimately there'll be an examination consisting of a 60% total. The recommended texts, and may I repeat, the recommended texts, which must be gotten by all and sundry, is the book written by the leader of this course, good Professor Abraham Anson, as far back as 2022, titled Ethics and Corporate Governance. The book is out there. I'm sure that after the conversations, you may reach out to me through your course rep, then I'll give you Professor Anson's teaching assistant's number. Then your course rep can liaise with him, or you can all individually liaise with the teaching assistant for such books to be brought to you. But that will be the material that we'll be using amongst other eminent articles from these various actors. So having said that, I welcome you all herein to the Corporate Governance and Ethics course. And once again, I'll leave it here for the course outline, and let me hear if there are any preliminary comments or questions that you may want me to know about. Otherwise, may I stress that your coming to class on time is as crucial as finishing the class with us. I'll come on time, and if there's any need why I'll be late, I should put you on notice. Otherwise, I'm a stickler for time. We start on time, then we can end in good time. Today's class will be in 3 parts. We are transitioning into the first. Are there any preliminary comments on the course outline? Kindly unmute and speak if there are any. All right. Silence means consent. And if you have been at marriage ceremonies, they say that speak now or forever hold your peace. And in our case, as it relates to us, if there are no comments on the course outline, then proceed into our discussion. Now, to be very clear that I am being heard, can anyone respond to me being heard loud and clear? Then we can transition into the class.
We can hear you.
We
Can
can
hear you.
hear you.
We can hear you.
Thank you very much, and good to have you all join us. All right. The first part. We are going to introduce ourselves to the concept of ethics. We'll look at the branches, sources, some theories that guides its explanation, Kohlberg and Gilligan's theories. Quite an interesting one at that. We'll look at the principle of ethics and we'll see how far we can come with that. But look, colleagues, when we talk about ethics, it's just a conversation around what is good as opposed to what is bad. Because as human beings and as the human actors on this earth, and people can say that we draw our inspiration from the good books of old, that tells us that we have been made stewards on this earth. And so as we ply our trade, as we go along our duties, the question as to what is good or bad becomes relevant in our stay on this earth and perhaps elsewhere. But on this earth, what is good and bad must be studied. We can't just wake up and say, look, what you are doing is good. And then tomorrow you are doing the same thing. We say, look, it is bad and punishable. That would cause a system to be so inconsistent that we cannot even predict how we should act. And for that, I mean that there must have been a clear understanding as to where the lines are drawn as it relates to goodness. So that in any case, should I as a man wish to marry 3 or 4 women, if I do so today, there must be a guiding rule that tells me that it is bad or it is good. It cannot be that just today I proceed in holy matrimony to 4 people, 4 ladies, and today I'm applauded, and just the next day, a colleague of mine would wish to do the same thing, and it is forbidden, it is seen as bad. It cannot be. So there are people who have, as part of their attribution and their contribution to knowledge, gone ahead to look for what is good. Then they can tell us that, look, this is good and this is bad. And that's what will shape our reasoning as it relates to ethics. So remember that what is ethical is just a conduct, a behavior, or a habit that is moral or good. And we'll come to how morality and ethics play out in a jiffy. But whatever action or conduct which can be determined as good or otherwise is what ethics is looking at. And in fact, there are people who do good and do bad things. And so, knowing what is good is one stage. Doing what is good is another stage. Knowing what is bad is another stage. And not doing what is bad is another stage, four of which encompasses the whole idea of ethics. So ethics is not only about goodness per se, it's about knowing good, doing good, knowing bad, and not doing or abstaining from what is bad. So these parameters centers on the question of what ethics wishes to address. That is why you can have someone who is researching into prostitution. The person does not want to practice it anyhow, but wants to know, amongst other things, what causes that lead to prostitution. Why do people enter into prostitution? Is it that it is lucrative? Is it a social vice? The repercussions of prostitution in the neighborhood or in the sense and conscience of the community? What are the hazardous effects to the person? That inquiry does not mean that the researcher, say my good self, Eche, it does not by any means mean that the researcher loves prostitution. It only suggests that the researcher seeks to understand what happened with the view to come out with information that will dissuade people from venturing into such an adventure. That is the whole point of ethics. May I repeat? Knowing what is good and doing the same, knowing what is bad and abstaining from doing what is bad. So ethics is a philosophical concept which always matches the inquiry of what is good and what is bad. The branches of ethics are in their numerous folds. In fact, and let me state that if you have questions, you can politely unmute, draw my attention to it, and then you speak. Sometimes when you advertise yourself by show of hand, I may not see it because of my time at teaching. You can unmute and make your case. But however, if it becomes a system that interjects the free flow of the conversation, I'll shift all questions to the end or at various intermittent gaps. Then you may ask your question. So if you have questions, you write it down. Then you may ask. But if at any point the clarity is so crucial, just draw my attention respectfully, and I would do my bit to elaborate on it. Okay. So knowing what is good, doing good, knowing what is bad and abstaining from doing bad leads us to the branches of ethics. We have the applied ethics. That is, particularly knowing what is good and enabling that to solve real-world solutions. Okay, so we know that killing is bad. Killing or depriving someone of his life is bad. And therefore, as part of applied ethics, we institutionalize this ethics ethos into law and say thou shalt not kill. That's applied ethics. Normative ethics is just at the stage of knowing. So there you go into define the tenets of ethics. Where do we draw the line? We say that you can marry. At the normative stage, the question is how many can you marry? Drawing the line. So that once we get appropriate definitions, appropriate maps as to the extent to which you can go and the extent to which you cannot go, then we are dealing with normative ethics. It's just the definition. It is important because at every time, culture may change. And it is imperative for persons who are into normative ethics to expand the frontiers of what it means to be good. Because before long, something may be good and it may change after a while to be bad. We also have descriptive ethics, what the public actually believes to be right or wrong. So something may exist normatively as right, but the public perceive it as right. The instances are glaring. When you go to the American community, they tell you that a man can choose to marry a man. That's at the normative space, and they are trying to draw the line in terms of understanding that, okay, it should be a man of 18 years who can give consent. No. The question in descriptive ethics is, do the people believe it to be right or wrong? Perhaps the Americans may. How do Ghanaians react to it? We've had plethora of issues that in the past, in the 8th Parliament, I suppose. So how do we see it? Normatively, yes, that's a human rights discussion. But descriptive-wise, how do we see it? That is why we always need Ghanaian content to feed into the concepts of the world. Then we're able to know what is good for us as Ghanaians and what is bad. Beyond that, we also have meta-ethics. This is where the researcher is, in fact, testing ethical characteristics with a lot of attitudes. So he may say that when you grow up in this locality, there's a certain level of hope that you become a good person. Okay, when you have a very bad background, you had your growth around brothels where they do a lot of bad stuff. There's a tendency that your attitude may be altered or impaired in a certain way. Those are the meta-ethics. They are using various variables of human behavior and ethics as its independent variable to see if there's some predictions in there. Then we have modern ethics. Obviously, know what is really good or bad from the consequentialist and the ontological view. And we'll look at that in a jiffy when we get to theories. So just sit back and relax. Having said that, now the conversation should now dwell on an important thing, which is we hear people use some words and perhaps it sounds as though it's the same meaning that would ascribe to ethics. First is morality. Someone says, okay, what is moral is ethical. Well, let's see. So that once we get closer to these terms, we are able to suggest to ourselves that no, let's use the right word. And in the exams and elsewhere, when questions of that nature come, you're able to ascribe the right interpretation we need from reading the language of the exam so that you don't lead yourself astray. The point is, when we say something is moral, morality refers to the rules and guidelines which an individual or a group has. Remember, an individual or a group has about what is right or wrong, good or evil. Remember that morality is rules and guidelines. Group has about what is right or wrong. What it means is that the morality of persons living in Ghana may differ from the morality of persons in Cote d'Ivoire. Or intrinsically, the morality of the heirs may be different from the morality of the accounts. And same may differ from the morality of the nothness. We do not say that there are no similarities. There is. But morality differs. So the northness, the southness, the easterness, the westerness have their concept of morality which cannot be trickled down. So the point is that morality is their own acceptance that we are northerners and this is what is right for us. We are westerners and this is what is right for us. We are southners and this is what we see as evil. We are Easterners, and this is our concept of what is wrong. So morality is based on the individual's or group's choice as to their goodness, whereas ethics is the embodiment of the general idea of what is good or what is bad. It therefore suggests that what may be an Easterner's morality, as much as it differs from a Northerner's morality, may all find expression in the realms of ethics. So, for example, the Easterners may say, and this is just hypothetical, I have no research basis to say what I'm saying, but to illustrate the point, which I'm permitted so to do, perhaps the Westerners may say that we are loyal people. The Northerners may say that we are truthful people. The Easterners may say that we are caring people. The Southerners may say, as for us, we are people of integrity. All these four find expression in the realms of ethics. So ethics is broader, but it is what these various sections have accepted that becomes their morality. Let us trickle down a bit. In fact, even in the, let's say the others, you would have other sections. You would have people within the same ever space who don't believe in some other things that their compatriots who are also others may accept. We have the Pekis, we have the Anglos. In the account space, we have Fantis, we have Ekrapims, we have Achims. Their concept of morality may differ, but guiding principle that governs all of them, to the extent that if ethics is the buffet, morality is the portion that you serve on your plate as it relates to that group or that individual. So if you know what a buffet is, there's jollof, there's some rice, fish, meat, amongst other things. Now, what you take when you serve yourself on the plate, maybe you are a bit exotic, and so you wish to take some snails with some spiders. Maybe you want some elephant ears, some trees, a lot of things on the table. You serve it. That becomes your morality. If your colleague wants to be traditional and says, I want fufu with live soup and goat meat, that is their morality, but it's all served on the table. The table is ethics. What you take in terms of a group or an individual is your morality. It doesn't mean that when I take my exotic dish and you take your traditional dish from the same table, we say that you are wrong. They may all be ethical. But here's the catch. The catch is that someone may near the table and on the same table there are vegetables. He picks the vegetables because he is vegetarian. And when his colleague is picking meat and fish and all of that, he has the right to say that, look, what you are eating can kill you. What effectively this means in the space of morality is that inherently some things may be good on the table, but because the moralities are what we choose, someone can say that your act is immoral because of his belief system. But that immoral act may not necessarily be unethical because it's from the same table. We'll come to those understandings in a few times. But then the point should be made that morality is what you serve yourself as a group or an individual, but ethics is the larger table. How about religion? In fact, as for that, it appears that the bulk of us may have a belief in a God or the other. Religion also separates itself from ethics. In fact, normally, you recognize that ethics has been able to come out from a lot of, or the amalgamation of religious beliefs. And sometimes we don't know whether it is a chicken or an egg situation. Which one came first? We do not know whether because of the practice of religion and the amalgamation of this goodness, we had ethics. Or it is that ethics started and religion borrowed from their sentiments. But the point should be made quite clearly that when it comes to religion, though it is of separate impact, ethics draws from them. But you see, religion has attached to its goodness some level of spirituality, such that when you breach a religious code, the way you feel is different from when you breach an ethical code. So when religion stops you from doing an act and you go ahead to perform the act, you feel insidiously inside your spirit that, look, I'm not standing right with my maker. But if you do something unethical, but there's no religious pronouncement on it, you feel, okay, good, maybe my conscience should serve me right or wrong, whatever it is. It therefore comes to the view that religion has some very spiritual force which backs its goodness and badness, to the extent that for persons who are religious, they fear that should they act inconsistent with the laid down rules, they may be excommunicated from heaven or Nevada or Vandala or wherever they find as a safe haven when they die. Because of that, they try to do what is good. So religion has some force which targets the spirits. But like I said, ethics draws views from that. So not all religious things may be ethical, and not all ethical things may be religious. There's a fine line between that. Of course, for example, there are some religions, traditional religious beliefs, that permit the slaughtering of a lamb. A lamb. That is that would be the smaller sheep, right? Good. A newly born sheep, a lamb. The slaughtering of a lamb as an act of sacrifice is permissible in religion, some traditional religion, for the atonement of sin. But ethics, especially again as it relates to environmental ethics, would frown on that. A lamb has prospects to grow, so why don't you kill the sheep whose life is almost expiring, but you intend to kill a lamb that has prospects? What are you doing to humanity and animal life? That is an ethical discussion. But when our God, through the numerous outlets and prophets of high repute, has sent us to do so, especially in the traditional religion, who are you to speak about ethics or not? So religion has that force that ethics can never have. But let me introduce you to something that has a force on earth, which again is closely related to ethics, which is the law. The law again looks like ethics. In other words, things that are lawful are seen as things that are ethical, but it's not always the case. But before I get to what disconnects them, it must be forcefully stated that when it comes to the law, people do good because it is backed by public force and power. You cannot. It's not about your reward being in heaven or hell. It's here on earth. We will deal with you. So what is lawful may be good or ethical. However, what is lawful may even be unethical. But you still have by law to obey it. In other words, ethics is broad, has no force. It's a choice. It's a decision you make to stand by. It's normally linked to your soul, your conscience. Religion is linked to your spirit. As for the law, it's attached to your body because these are groups of do's and don'ts that has been given blessing of society for the use of force and power, state force and power. And by that, you cannot go scot-free. When you say that, oh, I'm being unlawful. Being unlawful is a crime. I don't know how many of you, and this is why I opened the floor. I don't know how many of you came across the video of a purported video of a headmaster who appears on the video to have been cuddling. I want to use a fair word, a cuddling. But you and I, perhaps those who are familiar with the video know what you saw. To have been cuddling a lady who, to all intents and purposes, was a student in an SHS. And in that video, you see the lady who is a student appearing to enjoy the whole entourage and enterprise. In fact, when the man who happens to be, or who is purported to be the assistant headmaster of that SHS, was cuddling her in the wrong places, you see that she was happy and videoing it to the extent that before the video would end, she even took the opportunity to give a peck on the forehead of the assistant headmaster. They're in senior high school, and the man is the headmaster, or the assistant headmaster, so to speak. Remember also that the assistant headmaster is not holding cutlass or knife to threaten the lady, as it appears on the video. And we will restrict ourselves to the video. You will recall, if you know or have seen the video, that the lady was happy. Colleagues, I invite you to tell me, do you think it is wrong? And why do you think it is wrong? If a lady, a young lady in SHS, is having a nice time with the assistant headmaster, it's not that he removed her shirt, it's not that he forced her, it's just some nice cuddling, and so afterwards a kiss on the forehead, a peck if you want. Yes, he may have touched outside the dress. But what do you make of it in terms of ethics? Let me hear you. You may unmute and speak. Anyone at all, please go ahead. Who is coming? Let's do that quickly. Proceed.
Yeah, dog. Please, me, I think it's unethical for them to be, or for it to come to them. Maybe the act is not, but then for it to come to a public space like this, I think it is unethical. So the man being older than the lady or girl, if I should say, should have known better and not allowed the video thing to go on, or capturing to go on in the first place before letting it come out to the media space. I wanted to ask a question, but then when colleagues come in with their views, then I would come in with my question.
That is very good. Thank you, Elizabeth. Elizabeth says that perhaps in her view, it is the coming out of that video that is problematic. Where do you also stand? I need 2 further opinions and we proceed.
Hello, Doc. Please, I also think it is unethical because, as my sister said, the assistant headmaster is an elderly person, and also it was in a school setting, and according to the code of conduct of GS2, I don't think either it comes to the limelight or not. I don't think doing that with a student is an ethical thing to do. So I don't think as an elderly and a leader, it is good for you to do that with a little girl who has come for you to impact knowledge or shape the life of the child. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So the question I asked Elizabeth, and she may or may not answer, is if it didn't come out to light, or if it was done in secret, that'd be good. And as for, is it Halidu? You spoke, right? Halidu, you spoke. Halidu, you spoke. Was it Halidu who spoke just now?
Yes, please, Doc.
Good. So, Halidu, the question to you then is, as I appreciate all what you have said, the question to you also is, how about if the lady is 20 years, but is in SHS? She's 20 years. She can take her own decisions. Would that still be bad? Or the fact that it's an older man or not? Again. Okay, let's take a third view. Any third view? Kindly unmute and speak respectfully. Any third view? Colleagues, let's do that quickly.
Doc, please, do you want us to answer the question you asked, or you
No,
want a
you come
third
and
person
answer
to come in?
a third person to come in
Oh,
on
okay.
the general response, then I'll come to you
Oh,
individually.
okay.
Yes, any further, any additional person, please do that quickly. Any additional persons? We are 10 on the screen. Kindly do that quickly, please.
Yeah, Doc, good afternoon.
Yes, please proceed, Charles.
Thank you very much. Doc, me too, I say this as in the 2 perspectives. The first perspective is looking at the age. Somewhere along the line, the lady came out to clear the air that she's not 18 years, but 19. And so, in the laws of the land, 19 years old can also take a decision. So I say that it is good. That is her desire to have a man. And the only problem, the second piece is the angle in which the thing happened. That is the only problematic aspect that I think it is not good. But per the constitution, everybody is allowed to take a decision which it seems to be good or benefiting the life of the individual. Thank you.
Wow, that's a strong legal point. Thank you, Charles. And thankfully, I'm a lawyer, so I'm aware. And in fact, Charles, it interests you to note that the age is even 16 years. Okay, the age to give consent is 16 in Ghana. 16 years. So she came out to say she's 16 or more than 16. Because it was reported she was 15 years. In Ghana, 16 years, you can give consent. Okay. Thank you, Charles. So you may mute. So I like Charles's argument. He says that you can choose whatever you want to benefit your cause. But his issue is the environment and perhaps the school setting. Okay. Elizabeth, if they did it in secret, is it good?
Doc, please, so. The reason why I was saying that the capturing and then it's coming to the media space is the problem is, and I'll link it to the question I wanted to ask. In your submissions, you mentioned that ethics is about knowing what is good and doing it, and then knowing what is bad and um, uh, uh, abstaining from it. But then here is a case where sometimes we even know what is bad, but we go ahead doing what is bad. And so these people, for instance, the man, knowing that this girl is a student, like Aminu said, and that girl is in there for her to be shaped and then trained and then get the knowledge she requires for her future. But then there are a lot of things that are happening in our school settings and in our country that people are doing, but because it is not in the media space or it hasn't come out clearly like these people's own has come out, people don't really see it, or they turn a blind eye on it. That is why I was saying that if it hasn't come out, though they are conscious, like you said, the girl was happy, she was enjoying what she was saying, and coming out to, doing, sorry, and coming out to say that she wasn't 15 but 19 means she gave her consent to it. So even though it may not be ethically, or I don't know whether to use morally, it may not be an upright thing looking at the age of the man. But then since she is giving her consent, then I think she thinks or they think they are doing the right thing. So we have people also marrying people around that age. So coming out is the problem for me. Thank you.
Oh, that's a very good argument. Thank you. In fact, people say that there's a lot of that in our schools. So this is a big deal because his own came out on social media. And so that's the point Elizabeth wants to make. Now, Alidu, forgive me if the name calling is wrong, but will you change your thoughts if the lady is actually 18 years and they are doing that in a school setting?
Hello, Doc. Please, yes, you are right. I'm Halidu. I will still not change my thoughts because from the studies that we have gone through, I think even listening to some of the things that has been happening, even when a lecturer, a university lecturer own came out, it was still an ethical problem in the media. Well, as we already know that universities students are matured enough to do that, but it was still an unethical problem. So long as the child has been brought to school purposely for a different purpose, and rather you as an elderly or something doing such a thing with a child, and whether the consent or not the consent, that's not the reason why the parents brought him. He's still not at age because the child is he or she is a student. So long as the person is a student, your own is to impact. No, maybe after school that you chase head, yeah, that one maybe I will understand. But so long as he or she is a student and was brought to come and learn, I think, and you being the assistant headmaster who is in charge of making sure that academic work or the school run better, I think doing this with the student, the environment alone is not good. The respect of the students and that, and they will not respect the teachers and they will not take their lessons seriously. And that's why I think the GS also gave a punishment to the headmaster, because according to the code of conduct, the headmaster has erred. So please, that's my opinion.
Wow, that's brilliant. But answer yes or no, Alidu. Would your opinions change if, because you mentioned that it's about the purpose of the person being there and you use the university, will your opinions change if the lady is 50 years, 50, and the gentleman is 23 years? The gentleman, for some reason, has gone to school and is a doctor by 23 years. And there are a lot of that people I know who are 21 and they are PhDs. So the doctor, who is a male, 23 years. The woman, who is the student, is 50 years. Would it be wrong for you if that happened? Alidu?
Yes, please. I still think it is wrong, so long as the person is still a student. I still think it is wrong.
Excellent. So you see, Alidu has his opinion in a certain way. That look, it's a school setting. And I sought to interrogate that further by asking the change of ages and placing it in the university setting. And his was spot on. He says it is the school. And the purpose of coming to school will be defeated when you have a lecturer engaging amorously with a student. And same for the context within which it happened in the SHS.
Dog.
Yes. Oma, let me hear you. Oma, are you speaking? Please go ahead. Or did I not hear right? Oma, did you speak? Okay.
I haven't heard.
All right. Okay. So then we'll proceed until such a time when we can hear clearly. Okay, so Alidu says it's a school setting. There will be a lot of disrespect, disregard, and discontent among the students. It is even disrespectful, to say the least. So he is looking at the school's morality as against the same act. But you know, yes, Boma. Okay, I think the network is not favorable. So we may proceed. Now, these conversations would clearly tell you, and when we get to the ending of our discussion, you see why these things happen. They are contradictory. And whereas Halidu wants to stand on school principle, in ethics, you can decide who you want to be with. Making love is good. Love is good. But the setting makes it now immoral. All right, so those are some of the things we'll be looking at. But this should tell you that irrespective of how we say it, there's also the law. What does the law state? And I hear people say he should be sent to the police station. Thankfully, I'm a lawyer. The only time she could be sent, or the gentleman, I beg your pardon, could be sent to the police station is if the lady is less than 16 years. And even so, if it appears that she's more than 16 years and she did not give consent then you can send him to the police station. So first, if the lady is less than 16 years, you can report to the police for prosecution, indecent assault. If the lady is 16 years or above. But however, and you remember that 16 years in Ghana, you can give consent. But if she's 16 and did not give consent, then that also is a criminal act. Same indecent assault. But if she's 16 and she has given consent, forget about the police. The law has no remedy for that. We can only have the jurisdiction of GES to enforce their code of conduct. To sack the headmaster or discipline the headmaster. All right. So these are the things. Law has a force that surrounds it that ethics can never have. And so whatever is lawful, if you do it, you are okay. But if it is unlawful and you do it, you land yourself in jail or at a huge cost. That is why law becomes stronger and more enforceable than ethics. All right. Elizabeth, did you say you had a question or you have answered it based on your opinion that you rendered? Then we'll proceed.
Yes, please. It was on the parameters of ethics, the knowing good and doing it, and then knowing bad and abstaining from it. So I was about asking that, what of those of us who knows the bad, but we don't abstain, but rather do the bad ones? Are we being? I wanted to get the words
Yes,
correctly. Is it
unethical.
being
You are
on?
unethical.
Okay, thank
You are,
you.
yes, thank you very much. All right. Now, how did we grow up knowing that a headmaster cannot touch a student in such a manner? Did we just realize it? How did we know that insulting an elderly person is wrong and that even your colleagues is wrong and even insulting your child is wrong? How did we know that? Did we just wake up one day and we saw it there? Or are we just told that when you walk by someone and you do not greet the person, it is disrespectful, perhaps if the person is older than you? Where did we get all this? And why are we bound by all this? Well, the truth is, we get it from tradition. Every tribe and its tradition. There are customs that promote that. In fact, in some customs, when you see an elderly person, you don't only bow, okay? You sleep on the floor to greet the person because it's of higher authority. Elsewhere, you can just say good afternoon, you're gone. Elsewhere, your cap can be on and you say, hey, Charlie, how far? And the person is older than you. Okay, that's fine. But it is tradition that eats into our conscience that tells us that no, this ends right. Again, based on the kind of path you would want to follow, your religious, educational, or sociological path you want to follow, you may be bound by the ethics. I'm a lawyer, we have legal ethics. Some of you are teachers, or perhaps all of you are. You have the ethics of the profession. Some are accountants, they have their own ethics. So based on your profession, it's like going to a bank. Imagine you go to a bank one day and the one coming to take money from you is wearing baggy jeans and some sleeveless shirts with beard and rasta and cornrow and all. A man with earrings and has put chains on his legs. Can you go and save money in that bank? Because as part of the institution, And so because of that, generate what is good from, and going back and forth. I hope I can be heard.
Yes, Doc.
Very well, most grateful. Some axioms: you do unto others what you want others to do unto you. If you do good, you do for yourself. Whatever goes around comes, or goes around comes around. You know all of these things. So they're axioms that populate your mind. So this builds your morality. People say karma. There's also your experience. Your experiences to serve as a source of moral standing. And that is why there are some gentlemen, after suffering broken hearts, they say, me, I don't trust women. This experience, it has become their source. The ladies too who had a man they loved, and then all of a sudden the man is married. They say, hey, fear men. It is their source of ethics. Eh? The musician will say, now who caused him? But obviously, having had that experience, it becomes your source of ethics and forms part of how you think of goodness or rightness. And there's some stereotypical comments that we all make. For example, and this is not to glorify them, so I'll not complete all my sentences. Some people say, oh, airways are, I'll continue. Oh, as for garment, they are, I'll continue. They say, fancy men, Hey, as for Northern women, Hey, as for fancies, all these things, stereotypes, no valid basis, but they form part of your ethics. And you have people swearing, that's for me, I'll never marry anyone who is unaware. To what end? No valid basis, but it has formed part of their ethics. That's their experience. Can you question it? You can try to convince them, but their early experience. I have people who have their stepmothers take care of them throughout. Stepmothers. But for the most part of us, when we hear stepmothers, we think they are evil people. Because that's the whole acculturation. When you start reading Cinderella from the younger age, or those other things, wicked stepmother, the storybooks, it feeds into your psyche. And it feels like stepmother will maltreat you. Yes, the variety of them may, but some don't. But it has fed into your ethics. And again, your family and your friends. We have some friends we know as fair weather friends. They're only there when you're happy. When you're sad, they vanish. That forms into your mind. And you have some people say, me, I don't take any friend again my whole life. It forms part of their ethics. So look at the minuscule stage at which us as human beings can still alter our ethics. It should tell you how complicated and convoluted the discussion of ethics is. Because you are seeing that it's filled with stereotype, anecdotal evidence, axioms, practices, experience, religion, social construct, your educational pursuits, your tradition. So just one human being, all these things are in your mind as to what will qualify as good or bad. And all these are found in your conscience. Can ethics just be a subject that we can learn and agree on easily? Well, we can't tell. Let's look at two clear research works on this matter. One looking at males and the other looking at females. Determining the moral development of a male and a female. In fact, let's start with a male. Kohlberg, or if you want Kohlberg, he had the theory of moral development, 3-stage for men. I must emphasize, for men. Says that for men to finally develop morally, they go through 3 stages. And remember that the final stage is the best stage. Now, in the first stage, level 1, which he calls the pre-conventional level, it says men or male do things because they want to avoid punishment. So they'll do good stuff so they will not be punished. Men or males. Then, with time, they go to the conventional stage where they realize that, okay, it's not just about punishment. By society thinks that we should do this, then we'll do it. Society says give to the poor. When I don't give to the poor, I'll not be punished anyway. But society has drawn a consensus that is good, so I'll do it just to meet up with the tenets of society. That's the second stage of a man. And remember that men are also authority-driven. So once the institution says, look, just give alms to the poor, they'll do so. Remember, they have come from fearing punishment. And now they go to stage 2. They are like, okay, if it's a social consensus, then we'll do good at the conventional level. And finally, the post-conventional level, which is the third stage, they realize that no, ethics is universal. It's a social contract. When you want to live in society, you need to be good, irrespective. Then you see them going out of their way and doing a lot of things, feeling satisfied. Not because they'll be punished, or not because society thinks it's good, but because they understand that it is the right thing so to do. Kohlberg says that's how men build their moral development. They start from fearing punishment through to obeying the consensus of society and finally accepting that to live in a community, ethics is a social contract and doing good is the best representative of being a man, and so they'll do it. You may agree or disagree. But indeed, Gilligan's theory is what supports the female. Remember that as for Kohlberg, he says men fear punishment, so they'll do good. And then they now come to the social consensus at the second stage, and finally they adopt the universal view that, look, to be a man who is honorable, you need to do good. How about the woman? Gilligan says that as for women, they are driven by care and compassion. They are driven by care and compassion. So at their stage, at stage 1, the pre-conventional stage to moral development, they think of only survival. How do I survive? Remember that they care and they are compassionate people per the research. So a woman starts off thinking of survival. How do I survive? So you see, in the early stages, according to the research, she may do some immoral stuff, yes, because she wishes to survive. She wishes to care for herself and perhaps her family. She has compassion. So she may do some immoral stuff to survive. But if she has a means of survival, the guarantee that she will not do bad stuff is high. She won't do bad stuff because she has a means of survival, according to the research. But then it moves to the conventional stage where the woman realizes that self-sacrifice contributes to goodness. This is okay. So really I can engage in a way that I can suppress some of my feelings to make people look better. So if she was doing some immoral things at the pre-conventional stage, she starts to limit it at the self-sacrifice stage, the conventional stage. Remember, she's driven by care and compassion. So, well, okay, I used to date older men to survive. Now I have a job that is paying me okay, for example. Let me suppress those feelings because they are not right. She has left the stage of survival. So he says, okay, if I have to go out of my way to help my mom on my meager salary, I'll do so because at least self-sacrifice is also part of it. Remember, they are driven by care and compassion. And the final stage, which is the post-conventional stage, the woman realizes that satisfying her desire is no longer the justification. So she searches for alternatives not to injure herself or others. At the height of the pre-conventional stage, you see the woman living above reproach. She realizes that no, it's not about her desires anymore. It's about living up to expectation, not to injure anybody and even herself. So she takes care of people and she does so well to do so legally and ethically. Bottom line is that, as Kohlberg suggests, that men fear punishment, move on to a stage where they think it's a social consensus, and finally adopt ethics. Gilligan states that women are driven by care and compassion. They think of survival first. If that is met, they sacrifice a bit, and at some stage, they do good, irrespective. Do you agree? I take an opinion or two. What's your view? Is he right or wrong? Let me hear you.
Look, please, I wanted to ask a question.
Yes, proceed.
Please, I had a friend who said that when a guy approaches her with love issues or proposes to her and then she doesn't give in, she feels she's being wicked or punishing the person. Are we saying that with the first stage of the name or Carol or what? uh Are we saying that because of care and compassion, because she wouldn't even ask anything, it wasn't as if she needed something for survival, but is she then applying the care and compassion thing to be immoral, or I want to get it right?
Oh no, but you are saying that she says no, right? Except that she feels bad for saying no,
No, no. I
right?
mean, she said if she doesn't give in to them, then she thinks she's being wicked.
Okay, then that could be an offshoot, though negative, an offshoot of care and compassion, right? You know, too much of everything is good for nothing, right? Or people say too much of everything is bad. So care would have its ends, right? So the fact that you care and you are compassionate can put her in that stage, except that it is a needless care and compassion. You don't need to be caring and be compassionate in that domain of monsters. So that's my view. But it's not. It's nothing about this. You get
Oh,
it?
okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
What it is saying is that women are driven by care and compassion, and they'll let some of their guards down to survive. Then they'll start realizing they need to self-sacrifice. So they'll start limiting their immoralities. And finally, they'll reach a stage where they would only do good, knowing very well that it's not about their desires, but it's about the world and the country in which they live in. And that is why you see women taking care of children. However, the children will turn out they don't care because they are caring and compassionate about whoever they are with. That's the view this one shares. Is that okay, Elizabeth?
Yes, Doc.
Good,
And
good,
so
good, good.
at this point, I agree. It's true.
You agree? It's true, eh?
Yes, yes, please.
Oh, all right. Elizabeth says it's true
Sometimes
for
we even overlook our own needs, and then we want to sacrifice for others to survive, or others to get what they want, especially like you are talking in terms of kids and all that.
excellent. That's why even in the past, you see that a lot of men will tell their women, however educated they are, that look, you don't go to school, stay in the house, take care of the children. And they're able to engage in self-sacrifice. Sometimes the men end up leaving them, but they are able to say that, oh, once I have good children, it's okay. So yes, women do a lot of that sacrifices. Yeah. So she thinks that Gilligan is right. Eh, Which gentleman thinks that Kohlberg is wrong or is right? They say that we are running away from punishment. That's why we do good at the initial stages. Then finally, we do good because there's social acceptance to look good in society. And at the final stage, we do good because it is the right thing to do. You think that our men are engineered? Any man think so? Okay, we'll proceed then. All right, so from here, we move to the final bit of the conversation on the first part, which really deals with what we call ethical absolution and ethical relativism. And the final bit, which focuses on ethical pluralism. So let's see. The arguments, there are three tranches of the argument. The ethical absolutionists are of the view that what is good is unchangeable. Whether I go to heaven, earth, or in hell, what is good everywhere. They say that when you go to the north, the south, the east, and the west, what is good everywhere. So those is ethical does not, it is universal law. Well, I'll tell you how you think. But for the relativists, they are also of a different view. They say that no, you cannot say that. And that what is ethical differs from one society to another. And that various societies hold different views about what is right and what is wrong. So ethics is relative. You can't just say that this is good and it's good everywhere. Because what is good in Ghana can be good, but can be very bad in America. What is bad in America can be very good in Australia. What is good in the Volta region can be very bad in the southern region. Same for the north and the eastern region. So ethics is relative. You cannot say this is good for all. Just say this is good for me and my people. Don't generalize it. Where do you stand? Well, but what seeks to tie in both concepts is what we call ethical pluralism. And here it says that, okay, look, let's just see ourselves that there are numerous truths. There can be one truth for all. There can be truths that or morality that is based on different segments. So let's just say that anything anyone believes is equal. The way pluralism differs from relativism is that relativism will say that we have different viewpoints on what is ethics or what is ethical. We have different viewpoints. So you cannot tell me that yours is better or mine is better. whilst I'm doing mine, it means yours is bad. But for pluralists, they tell you, look, we all have different truths. We all are from different histories and backgrounds. There can be one truth. Yes, there are times like that. There can be one morality. And there can be others that are based on the circumstances of the people. And they have adopted that morality for themselves. So it is for us to just remember that there can be one truth and there can be a lot more, and they can all not be brought together in a single principle. Where do you stand on this? Do you think that there's one, what is good everywhere? Or what is good is based on the cultural disposition and circumstances of the people? Or what is good can be a function of a general principle of goodness, and also whatever anyone thinks is good in other contexts, even if they conflict, it's still good anyhow, because that's their truth. Where do you stand? Are you a pluralist, a relativist, or an absolutionist? Now let me go to the tables, because some of us cannot be in the class and say nothing. So I'm going to the list of persons. In fact, you speak for your own marks. So some of these things you should not be called. I
Sir,
find it difficult. Yes.
I will go for the second one.
Proceed. Okay, let me hear
I
you.
will, I will go for the second one, relativist, because I believe that what is good or what is bad depends on where you are. In Ghana here, we have preconceived mind where people are even against people piercing their ears 2 or 3. But elsewhere, it is normal. That is fashion. So I believe that what is good or what is bad depends on where you are, because some of us, our thoughts, it's over the bar. We judge according to our own spiritual or religious groups that we belong to.
Wow, that's brilliant, Oma. So you say she belongs to a relativist. Okay. But as she spoke,
Doc,
she appeared to have been a pluralist. But let's see. Yes, Elizabeth.
and Doc, for me, I don't know why I belong, but let me give my submission. Then maybe, like you just mentioned, my sister's own, then you can dictate it. But then, like you said in the earlier submission, you see, until today, me, I've been using these two words interchangeably, the morality and then the ethics. And so there are similarities in this ethical kind of thing. There are some of them that are basic that when you go everywhere, it is seen as good or it is seen as bad. And others too, like the morality thing, people see this be depending on where they find themselves, like my sister said, then they see these as good or bad. But there are others that are very basic that everywhere you go, even outside this country, we see it, or every human person or on humanitarian grounds, we see this as good and we see that as bad. That is my submission. Thank you.
Okay, good. It means you're a pluralist. Oh, okay. Elizabeth says there are some things that everywhere you go, it can only be right. But there are some things that are based on your culturations, where you find yourself. Okay. A final opinion. I've been unsuccessful as opening the persons on the screen. So any final position on this and we proceed. Where do you stand? Remember that relativism, where there's conflict, then they call your own bad. They can exist. Ethical relativists. The difference between the relativists and the pluralists is like what is it Pomar stated? Pomar states that, and I'm using the example, people PS2 is seen as bad, elsewhere is good. So a relativist, once piercing is the question, and we have adopted one. For a relativist, when you PS2, it is wrong. So anytime there's a conflict, yours becomes wrong. But for a pluralist, if there's a conflict, you say, well, maybe it's your culture and all. Let me give a practical example, which is also a legal example. How many wives must a Christian man marry? Anyone? By law?
No, please, by law or
Yeah.
religion.
A religion, yes, religion.
As for religion, what I know is one man, one wife.
Good. That's the law. It's also under ordinance. So if you are a Christian, you marry under ordinance. You can only go to one, and that is why most Christian men marry later in life, because they want to do the first and final and best selection. But often, does it end well? Let's see. So you see that the women are also clear, because they know that this venture, when I enter, until death, either I kill him or he kills me. So when you see a Christian woman having the opportunity of being proposed to, she's very careful. When you propose to her, beyond the fact that she likes you and all, she start questioning, which way did you say you are an engineer? Oh, you said you're a teacher. Which school? Because you know she has only one chance. The next question is, how many wives can a Muslim legally marry? How many? Halidu. Or Elizabeth, you're aware of this. Let me hear Halidu. Are you on the page?
Yes, please, I'm aware.
We'll leave it to Halidu. Halidu.
Sir,
How many by law?
4, sir.
Good.
Mhm.
I studied my law in Gambia. I did Sharia law. I know it's 4. And when you look at the act in Ghana, again, it is 4. And in Ghana, it is labeled as Mohammedan law. But I hear people say that it's not right to say Mohammedan law, say Islamic law. Whichever is right, I can't tell. But the statute in Ghana uses the phrase Mohammedan law. It is 4. Okay, good. 4. Now, customary law. How many wives can a man marry? Anyone?
As much as we can, sir.
May you live long, Alidu. As much as you can. To the ends of the world. You can marry as many as you can.
Hey, lawyer.
Well, I'm saying the law. It's the law. The law is the law. And so, if you are Christian, so look at how relativism and pluralism works. Because as for absolutionists, we are clear. Those ones, they say it's universal. What is good is universal. We'll come to that in a bit. But for the relativism, if it comes to this matter of marriage, they can exist until such a time when they see that when a Christian and a Muslim are staying together and they're ethically relative, when the Muslim man marries one wife, it's okay. You say, oh, that's good. The Christian marries one wife, he says, okay, that's good. Now, immediately, the Muslim marries 2 wives. The Christian, to his mind, may start thinking, it's wrong because there has been a conflict. Then he goes to the third. He says, this man is very immoral. This Muslim is immoral. You go to the fourth, a man, 4 wives, he says immoral. Same for traditionalist. So a Muslim is with a traditionalist, a person married under customary law, and the Muslim has 4 wives, a traditionalist does 4. He says, oh, it's okay. Okay, first wife, second wife, third wife, fourth wife. He says, so that's okay. Then 5, 6. Today he has impregnated this lady, tomorrow this. And the man has like 16 wives. The Muslim man can say, are you kidding? It's wrong. So this is just for the purposes of argument. But for you to see that this is how relativists think, immediately the Christian and Muslim neighbor has the Muslim neighbor cross from 1. The Christian neighbor thinks it's wrong because he's relativist. Now, if it was an ethical pluralist, this is how you act. He marries 1 because of his canon law. The Muslim goes to 2, 3, 4. He says, so be it. There's conflict with our views, but that's their practice. We accept it. The Muslim and his customary neighbor, the Muslim does 4, the guy in the customary does 16. A pluralist will say, well, okay, ours is 4, theirs is ad infinitum, theirs is any amount. And so it's how they perceive it. It's okay. That is how a pluralist think. So for them, they believe that the truth is in multiple things, and based on your truth, you believe it. Same for relativists, except that where there's conflict, the relativist will see your own as wrong. But a pluralist will say they can all coexist. Fine. That is the major difference. And that is what we need to put on record as we have these conversations. You can either be an absolutionist, a realist, or relativist, I should say, or a pluralist, knowing where the lines are drawn. Okay. Any questions before that? Okay, so if not, we move into our final segment. This one will touch it in our next slides. So we'll move on to our next slide. We'll take a break. And then when we come back, we'll continue with ethics. Remember that here, our view is that ethics is about knowing what is good, doing it, knowing what is bad, but not doing what is bad, or abstaining. Except that it can exist in absolutionist, relativist, or it may be plural. If you looked at the marriage example, there are a lot of examples that are akin to that. We'll take a break now. It's 1:25. We'll come back at 1:35. And please, I'm a stickler for time. 1:35. And we'll continue with our second state. Are there any questions? First, let me take, if there are any questions, I'll take them before I set the break. Any questions?
Yeah, Doc, before we go, a quick one.
Yes.
Please, on this piercing thing my sister mentioned, you may have your own ethical background, but then I think when you find yourself among people, or maybe even work ethics should also restrain you from practicing, or should it restrain you from practicing your own ethics? For instance, you are a teacher and we are modeling these students, or they see as role models. And so is it not unethical for a teacher to put on an anklet and then pierce the ear like 3 to work?
Yes, so it depends on, Elizabeth, that's what we've been saying all morning. It depends on where you stand. If you are an absolutionist, you can say that, look, these are models, you want to be a model for them, and you are in an African setting, in an environment, and you're in Ghana, in a formalized sector, it may not be something you'd want to encourage. So be it. If you are an ethical relativist, you say, well, life as a teacher. How do I care about what a child will see? Besides, is it that I'm in class doing bad things? I only just dress to make myself feel good. So be it. But if it comes in conflict with the code of conduct, then the code of conduct will prevail, or must prevail. If the code of conduct says no double piercing, then that one is not at your discretion. The law is clear. But if it is a pluralist, that tells you that, look, your truth is fine. Yours is to teach the children. Come and teach your children, the children or the students, and go. Whatever it is, there's no law behind that. So be it. Like we said about the headmaster example, if the lady is 16 years and has given consent, imagine that GES code of conduct did not have that. What's the point? In the university, people who come to the university, the mass number of them are of age and they can give consent. But why is it that when a lecturer is in an amorous relationship with a student, we find it to be unworthy because there's a code of conduct that stops it. So it's about what the code is saying as against what you believe. If the code is not stopping you from doing that, anything you do, maybe your colleague teacher may say, it's not right, you dress well and all, but it's up to just a mere suggestion. So that is what it's about, a whole lot of analysis as to whether a pluralist or you're an absolutionist or you're a relativist. And beyond that, where you don't have a choice is when it becomes a rule or a law, because there it has a force and a punishment. So that's what I'll say. Is that okay?
Thank you. Yes, please. Thank you.
Very well, Elizabeth. Okay, let me hear Abbas.
Thank you very much, sir. So my question is that is there a relationship or correlation between the theories that you mentioned, the Kovacs and then the Killigan? Is there a relationship between the theories and then age? I don't know if I'm clear. Like if you
Okay.
take one theory, is it that from a particular age period that you go with the stages? Does it go with the stages, go with the with age or something?
Okay, then I get you. So what we do as researchers is that, so what you would have done in research, you would have called that interventions, or we'll say you would want to adjust your information to, okay, so we call them control variables, to control for age, ethnicity, amongst others. But let me come to the point. I think that from your question, you want to suggest that perhaps the age of the person may differ as to the stages. But what the researchers are talking about has no mention of age, but rather the moral age. So that even if you are 100 years and you are now starting to become akin to morality issues, then you are starting from age 1. So they are talking of moral development in terms of the age at which you were exposed to morality. But otherwise, the clear age, say from 0 to 10 years, 0 to 15 years, that has not been done. You may undertake it as a research if you wish to do that. Do you get it? But that categorization has not been done. It's the moral age of the man as he goes through, and the moral age of the woman as they go through. But as it is, since morality is already interwoven in our fabrics, you may tell that as a man grows up, he may be facing these kinds of things. And as a woman grows up, she may be going through the same stages. But as to whether or not the researchers has categorized that this meaning gotten from the research is because of the age of the ladies or gentlemen as they go through the ladder, that I have not come across. You may look it up. Is that okay?
Thank you, sir. That's okay.
Very well. But that's a beautiful question. Okay, any further? All right. It's 1:32. We'll come back at 1:42 to take our second part. We are doing 3 parts. Thank you very much. All right, welcome back. We'll proceed to another important concept as it relates to ethics. I hope I can be heard loud and clear.
Yes, Doc.
Very well, good. Now, in this lecture, our attention will be turned to beliefs, attitudes, and virtues. Beliefs, values, attitudes, and virtues. We want to know what these things mean, what they are. Where do we draw the fine line amongst them? And then how these things influence the behavior of people within a particular section. Let's start by saying that beliefs, attitudes, values, virtues, they are all interwoven. They are all from the concept of what is good and some of the predispositions that we find ourselves in. But of course, in starting with beliefs proper, beliefs are things or ideas that you hold to be true, which is so dear to your heart. Now, you believe those things, either in its ideal stages. You may or may not have seen things like that happen, but it is your belief. They are based on your knowledge sometimes, or based on facts sometimes. But these are things you hold very dear to your heart. It may be based on scientific or unscientific things, but they are still things you hold very true to your heart. So you believe that when you want to become rich, you need to be someone who gives to people. That's your belief. You hold it true to your heart, so you see people, you are kind to them because you want to be a rich man. That belief may stem out from a fact or not. It may stem from a knowledge that has been passed on to you. In fact, it may be you experiencing it directly, or you read about them. So someone publishes a book and says, look, if you want to become rich, give to people. You say, okay, this belief, I keep it, and it is dear to me. That is derived. Now, some beliefs may be justified or not. The ones that are supported by evidence are justified. Are not supported by evidence, they are unjustified. People believe in ghosts. They believe that when someone goes to the courts above or kicks the bucket, to be a bit euphemistic, kicks the bucket, or as the Ashantis will say, as it relates to their traditional custom, if the chief travels to the village, you are no more alive on this earth. Some people believe that there's an existence of ghosts that will come wearing the apparel of the one who is dead, so to speak. Is it justified or not? Oh, well, we can't tell. But beliefs is not just about those spiritism, but more specifically about what you hold true and dear to your heart. Like I've said, the measure of kindness and how you think that being kind can make you rich. Now, these beliefs also can be so ingrained in your heart that they are very difficult to change. Someone may say religion. We believe in one God, the Father Almighty, the maker of heaven and earth. it is core and central. In fact, that is my belief also. It may not be your belief, but for me, it is difficult to change that belief. So it is very difficult for me to become an atheist. Because they also believe that there is no God. That is up to them. However, there are some beliefs that are dispositional. Because of some circumstances, you held that belief. But with time, it changed. For example, they believe that all areas are whatever do you think. All fancies are, all northness are, all southness are, all westness are, all eastness are, all that stereotype. Maybe a belief you have. But you experience someone from that segment you've always been stereotyping against, and he's done you something good. You're like, this belief I must change it, because it is dispositional. It's very difficult to change. It's very easy to change. But for core beliefs, before you can convince me or people like me that there is no God, then you have a good work and a tall order to surmount. Well, there are some researchers who believe that however you see the belief system, you can treat it as it being commonsensical and move on with your life. So Lion Rada, the researcher, holds a view that we should not argue with belief. We can just have a common understanding that, look, the belief is correct. Then we move on. Whatever I believe is correct. Let's proceed. You believe there are ghosts, it's okay. You believe that when you want to be rich, you need to be kind. So be it. You believe that before you write your exams, you have to put your leg in hot water. It's okay. But in another breath, that's the first approach. But the second approach, he says that you can also believe or have the view that the belief may not be entirely correct, but it is okay enough to make useful predictions. Okay, so in his first approach, he tells you that if you believe that when you want to be a rich man, you have to be kind, it is correct, it's your belief, so be it. But in second approach, he makes the view that you may hold the view that the belief is not entirely correct. That belief may not be entirely correct, but it is okay enough to make some predictions, because perhaps A, B, and C persons have done the same thing and chalked the same success. So it may not be correct entirely, but it is close enough to make some predictions, so that at least when I'm writing a book, I can say, oh, Alidu, Elizabeth, and I, we wanted to be rich at the time, so we were giving out money. And we became rich. It's okay. It may not be correct, but I can make some good decisions. He has his third belief. He's saying that sometimes you can have a view that belief is entirely wrong. The belief is entirely wrong. And that belief will completely be superseded by a radically different theory. So the view here he shares on the third approach is that you can hold the view that that belief we have, that kindness leads to riches, is entirely wrong. And that when we are provided with better evidence of saying, no, you need to save. It is rather when you save and invest that you can reach. It's not about acts of kindness. Then maybe with time, that view will be defeated. So let us, or if someone has a belief, let's start from the point that it is wrong entirely. And that there's a theory that is radically different from that belief. Like I said, savings and investments can make you rich, not being kind. So you can start from the point by saying that that belief is flawed. That's his third approach, if you so wish to. And if his fourth approach to is that you can hold the view that the belief is entirely wrong. However, treating people, animals, and even computers as if they have beliefs is a successful strategy. And this is the fourth part that I would wish to emphasize. It is the fourth approach. You can determine that, okay, your belief system is wrong, but better treat people with the view that they have beliefs. If you want to ignore that beliefs, you may end up losing the person in the process. I'll give an example. If a person is working in your organization, or say a teacher is teaching in class, GS, you have employed a teacher in class, he believes that there is God who has the ultimate power to do and undo things in this life. So early mornings, he takes his mat, kneels down behind the class, and prays to his God before he comes to teach. Not that he's late for class. He comes to class. He comes on time. He delivers. But you, the headmaster, you feel that you don't want that form of prayer. What is all this? It's not as though he comes to work late or anything, but you just don't like the fact that he's praying. Maybe because in your view, it's a wrong belief. There's no God. You have gone to Oxford University and you think they've told you that, they've confused your mind that there's no God. So there's no God, there's no God. So because of that, you want to treat everything with such a view. The fourth approach is of the view that, well, you can treat it as wrong. You can say that the teacher is wrong in praying to a God who, in your view, is non-existent. Fair enough. But the better you treat that teacher, or the earlier you treat that teacher's belief as true, the better for a successful strategy. Because it will shock you as a head teacher or as GS that when you stop that teacher from praying before he starts his class, he may never be able to deliver the way he wants to. You can increase his pay 10 times. Once you have told him point blank that, look, Mr. Kwame, don't bring your mat and come and pray early morning. There should be no praying in our school. It will shock you that Mr. Kwame may come to school and he's not happy because you have undermined his belief. So remember line rather that says that, well, you have options, approaches to deal with belief systems. First, you can believe that they believe, or you can hold the view that they believe is correct. Whatever I believe is correct, and so be it. Or you can hold the view in the second approach that, well, it's not entirely correct, but people have tried this belief and it worked. When they are going to learn, they drink coffee, and they say coffee will make you stay awake. 10 people did it, it's okay. 5 did not, 5 did it, it didn't work. But the majority thinks it works. So you can drink coffee and learn at night, so be it. The third view is that, look, you can say that the belief is entirely wrong. It will theoretically be overturned by events. Fair enough. You can show them another way of belief or a theory that can negate their belief system. Like people say, if you're a twin, you cannot give birth to twins. Then maybe you show some twins who have been able to give birth to twins, and you'll say, okay, fine. Then maybe that was an obsolete view I held. But the fourth point is that you can hold a view that the belief is wrong, entirely wrong. But the earlier you treat people as having beliefs that are true to their heart, the better it is for a successful strategy. So remember, when you are going to attack someone's belief, and that is why I'm one of those people who don't engage in religious belief arguments. If you want to go to heaven, go to your heaven. If you think there is no heaven, please, it's your belief. If you think you die and become a mouse, it's your belief. People think that if you die, there are religions that when you die and you are good on this earth, you become the sun, the moon, the stars. If you died and you were a bad person, very immoral, when you die, you become a rat, a mouse, you become an ant, a spider, a snake. If that person has that belief, the point is, you don't go in there disrespecting it, so be it. Does that belief cause them to do good? Line rather on his fourth point, he say you can believe it is wrong, but remember to respect it. That's successful strategy. Because though there are no scientific means to test their belief. The earlier you treat them with that perfect, the better. Remember that from the outset, we said what beliefs are dear and core to the person's heart. Well, where do we get the beliefs from? We have them from a lot of areas. Some beliefs were nurtured into you from the younger age. They tell you, I recall I was told until now, I'm still scared in the evening. I was told by my grandma that when you're sleeping in the evening, in the dark, you don't look in the mirror, otherwise you see a ghost. Hey, till now, at my age and my standing, as high as a lawyer and a doctoral holder, I still fear that. So sometimes when the mirror is in front of me, you know now the modern houses, the mirrors will be hanging on the walls. When I wake up at night, or for some reasons the lights are out, I still till today cannot look in the mirror because I'm fearing that I'll see a ghost, a man of my standing. I fear that because it has been ingrained in my belief system from my formative years, and I've internalized it so much that I cannot do away with them. The question to you now is, what are some of the beliefs that you know and you think that those beliefs are true, or having grown up, you've seen that no, I must let it go? Are they core beliefs or just dispositional? And when people come against them, do you feel offended? Or you are now going to the fact that, look, these are just mere beliefs and people can hold their views about it. I do not care. The floor is open. What are some of those beliefs? Anyone at all? I've told you
Doug,
mine. Anita, let me hear you.
I had a belief that when bathing, you're not supposed to talk or sing. And that thing has been in my head. So I realized that in case you are bathing and you are talking, maybe the foam can enter your mouth and it can cause any sickness or any problem to you. But they put it in there, it's like it's a bad omen that you are not supposed to talk or sing when bathing.
Okay, great. What was the punishment then under tradition? What did they say will happen to you?
Back then they said it's a bad omen. You are calling some spirit or something. That was what I remember.
Okay, so Anita, do you believe it now? Or you think that like what you
But
have said, it was to prevent the soap from entering your mouth? Which one do you believe?
yeah, now I believe is to prevent the soap from entering your mouth.
So you don't believe it's any bad omen, right? That will come.
No, 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 no,
You know, then tomorrow when you are taking your bath, try it and let's see. Okay, you
no.
talk about it. Okay, all right. Thank you, Anita. Yes. So something like that, you will be. By later on, you want to give a scientific justification. Let me hear you again. I'll take two more views. What beliefs have you held that you think that no, having grown up, this is false? Or having come to new knowledge, you think this is really false? Or there are some beliefs you think is still true, though you don't have any evidence to it? Or perhaps you've experienced it. Let me hear you. Let me hear you, colleagues. Anyone? I'll take two more.
Doug, please, mine was on that we don't whistle in the night. But me, I still hold it to. I still hold that belief. They said when you do that, you are inviting evil spirits.
And you don't do it, or you do it?
No, 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 I don't do it.
So, do you believe that it is true?
Yes, please.
But why don't you try and see whether or not it is true?
Since they said it is not good to do that, I don't want to do it.
Try and see. Okay, so I'll ask you when we meet next week. Let's see whether the able spirit escape or you won't try.
Okay, I'll
Okay.
try. Since you said
Hey, please,
it's a
Elizabeth.
form of assignment.
Elizabeth, don't try. Don't say lawyer said you should go and try and the able spirit. Please do it at your own time. Let people be around you. Okay, thank you, Elizabeth. Who is coming finally?
Welcome.
Who is coming finally? On a belief system, if grown
Doc,
up. Yes, let me hear you, Poma. I'm
they
using
are
Poma
saying
in our house. Okay, Poma, let me hear you.
when a lady is pregnant, you are not supposed to eat snails. Other than that, your child, will have that watery mouth. And all my boys, I didn't eat snail because I was afraid.
Oh, really?
Oh yes, they are saying that is a sign of autism, but they are
Wow.
associating it with eating snails. So my mother was told me don't take snails, other than that. In this world, but still I'm afraid. So me, I didn't take it. I didn't
Oh,
want any complications.
will you go for some other round again so that
I'm
we?
done. No, I'm done. Dog, please, I'm
No,
done.
just for this experiment, Poma.
No. That's why they are begging.
Okay, thank you. So Poma says yes, she didn't take it because it's her beliefs, and you see why the belief systems are strong that somehow you think I can't just attempt it. Let me hear the gentleman who unmuted respectfully as the last submission.
Yeah, dog.
Yes, Charles.
Yeah, please. In the olden days, our grandparents do say that most communities don't go to fetch water at the riverside on Tuesdays. They say when you go to fetch the water, you will see ghosts. And yeah, that is
So have you
what
gone
it's
before?
true. Yeah, you do go, but you don't see the ghosts.
No, so you've gone before, Charles.
We have tried before.
And you didn't see the gods.
We have tried before, and there's no ghost there. You know that. No, we didn't say it. We didn't say it. The reason being that in most communities where there is no pipe water, that is the only source of water. And so when the whole community pressure on fetching from that source, it becomes like the water will finish within short time. So they reserve a day for the water to gain it brings. That is the reason why they pose that restriction, using that a form of fear, imposing it in the society. That is the most reason.
Dog, this one I bet to differ, because
Yes, let me hear you.
in our fishing community, for instance, they say that on Tuesdays you are not supposed to go for fishing. What I know is those who disobey and go, they don't come back. Maybe it's a child's place, but my place, if you disobey and you go, you will not come back.
Okay. Hey, Charles,
Yes, sir.
your end, you can come back, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Charles. Poma, your
I,
end, you cannot come back, right? Okay,
yeah,
Charles, you may
Oh,
leave.
you wouldn't. Sometimes all these things are being backed by spiritually. So sometimes when you disobey, you get the consequences. You are not supposed to go to fishing on Tuesdays. You disobey and you go. You even die in the sea. So sometimes, as for whistling and those things, they are stereotypes. But I said traditional ones, when you disobey, dog, go back when the end say,
Hey, Jesus Christ, I'm even scared. Okay,
And,
thank
and
you,
therefore,
Poma.
I think they are all coming from traditional source. They are all coming from traditional source, and
Charles,
look,
you come to my place and try and let's see.
they are all there for a purpose. Yes, they are all there for a purpose. In
Yeah.
some communities,
All
they said
right.
in the old said they said that when you are eating, you don't put your left finger on the bed floor. The idea is that in the olden days when they are eating, they share fish among the children. So your left hand that you hold the fish, it is not ideal for you to put it on the floor. That is they have a reason for all those ones. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Charles. Poma says come to an end and see. So what I'll do is that Tuesday is just is it 3 days from now? I'll take a bucket. Poma, is it Cape Coast?
No, that kind of yeah, no. See, my junior brother, the one that
Okay,
follows me. You know, we have
yes.
this tree. Those who know second year and Escado, there was this tree there. When it gets to around 11, 12, you are not supposed to pass there. And he's that type. He likes challenging a lot. He went to church, came and since that time, the Ohun Yenwahu Untimin can't up till now. He cannot even describe what he saw. So from that time, anytime he goes to church and it's late, he sleeps in town, he doesn't come home. Sometimes you might think it is tradition, but trust me, BB say. So I don't like no challenging and all that. Ubehu di eni se ohun. So please don't come, okay? We want you alive.
Hey, Poma, okay. Your advice is well taken. It says not come. Well, but you see, so you can glean from the conversations around the table, brilliant as they are, that look, the beliefs are there. And like Lion Rada said, you can believe it's true. You can believe it's entirely flawed. But the best bet is that if someone says this is our belief, leave the person. Because that's a successful strategy. Poma says you can't do this in my community. Charles says, oh, we have tried. Some say there's scientific reason to why they say so. But others also say beyond the science, there are spirits that influence and mental punishments. So you see, they're at various levels. That's why someone says, I believe in this. So be it. Don't go around questioning. You only question for knowledge. But if you want to change the person's belief, unless it's a dispositional belief, if it's a core belief, it's very difficult to change it. Okay, so believe it or not is the scenario we are in here, but you should know that beliefs are core to people. When you want to attack that belief, then it means that you're attacking the core of their very makeup. They would resist it. Now, the next thing is values. Now, beliefs are the broader set. Remember, as we dealt with ethics, we indicated that ethics is the broader one, morality is the part of the buffet, the food on the buffet that you serve yourself. So values are the individualized belief that influences your behavior. So again, the buffet is a buffet of beliefs. The one you internalize, the one you individualize becomes your values. And values are anything that are of worthy prominence in life. So my values are integrity, loyalty, respect, the various beliefs and how you have individualized them. That becomes your values. Justice, kindness, care, and compassion. You determine that. Values are important because they help you make decisions. There are people you can never bribe. You'll never compromise. It's their value. There are some people who you can never lie to, or you can never call on them to come and tell an untruth. There's a case I'm doing in Asin regarding a land matter. The chief told me, the chief is the one who knows the story. The context is about whether or not a certain sub-chief in that enclave was properly nominated as Queen Mother and also properly nominated as chief. The Bushampenyi, an old man who knows the true story, told me in the face, lawyer, if you want me to go and lie in court, I can't do, because I'm nearing my grave. I can't. When I go to I'll go and say the truth. So if you want the truth, send me as your witness. If you don't want, then leave me at home. And I was scared about the number of truth he knows. So I just kept him at home and used other witnesses, you know. So values help you make decisions. And it can let you judge whether, look, this person is right or is wrong. There are types of values. There are values that we need to grow up in terms of approaching our end state. And by end state, we mean our future goals. You want to become a teacher. What values must you have? There are some values you need to become a teacher ultimately. So as a teacher, you need to be someone who should explain things to people. You need to be someone who could speak. You need to be someone who could show compassion. Someone who could show care. So these are instrumental values. They urge you on to your end state. Then we have the terminal values, when you are at the end. When you have achieved that, how do we live? What values do we hold or uphold in the scenarios when we have now achieved the enviable position of becoming a teacher? How do you think about that? What are the values you eschew? Remember that terminal values propel you, but once you are at the top, once you've gotten to the end of the ladder, what values do you possess? Because now, that's okay. Where I am now, I'm happy. I have a secure job. So what should I determine to be my state of happiness? Is it that I go to the disco? Is it that I go every Friday night, I go with my friends out? What are my values? Because your terminal values that propel you to the end states are not always the values you come along with. That is why I hear people say that, hey, when he was poor, he was this way, but now he has become rich, he has changed. People don't change. There are instrumental values and there are terminal values. There are people who are very hardworking from the start. You give them a job as a head of department, they cannot act because they have not had a good comprehension as to what their terminal values are. So you realize that before long, they mess up. The person who was studious, hardworking, caring, now becomes head of department and he's just doing a lot of things that are nuisance. He doesn't respect any teacher because he's now a head teacher. But while he was a teacher, he used to care about teachers. But we've been in this country, Ghana, where some people even sang songs. Oh, if I was a president, if I was a president. They became even CEOs. Not presidents, they became CEOs. Some became members of parliament. Did they live up to that? Because it was just a terminal value. Sorry, it was an instrumental value they were having, but their terminal values were not described. So when they get there, they fail. When you are starting life, sometimes they say, oh, save, 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 save. It's not always about the family. You don't need to give all your money to family. You need to concentrate about your nuclear family, not your extended family. At the terminal stage, you see people behaving like that still. They have reached their goal. They are now CEOs. And they are still holding on the same advice. I'll help my families. The extended, I mean, not the nuclear. I'll help my families because it's not a good thing to do. No, it was just an instrumental value advice. That if you spend all your money on them, you may not be able to achieve much to further help them. But people take it as truth. So when you use your instrumental values at your terminal stage, sometimes it becomes counterproductive. So some people are so hardworking, instrumental, so it propelled them very fast. Then they became CEOs of the organization, and they are still hardworking to the extent that now they want to do any work in the organization. They give work to people to do, they are still there doing the work. You're like, aren't you the boss? Give us time to also think. When you give us work, you're also in the work, doing everything. Because their ethos is hard work. That was their instrumental value. They've not been able to read it off to allow others to learn. You get it? Some end up becoming workaholic because they've not defined their terminal values from their instrumental values. So it is very important that the values you keep to measure your goodness and badness as an individual is well categorized so that you can enjoy both states, the beginning stages to the end states of your career. And also personal values are also required, things you hold true. So beyond your instrumental values, because instrumental values, whether I like it or not, you need to be hardworking, you need to obey time, respect time, to become a successful person in life. So those ones, it's much ado about nothing. You can't change it. But your personal values are also there. They can emerge from your tribe, your utilitarian thoughts, whether or not you think of the masses. Maybe you are a rights-based person. What are your personal values? Those ones are there. And those ones normally, they transcend both your instrumental stage and your end states. So whatever personal values you have, those ones, they live with you forever. Because you did not do it just because of an end. You did that because of who you are. Some people are kind, not because they think that kindness can cause them to become members of parliament. I know people who are very, very good in the community, but you tell them, oh, then the way you are good, you've helped a lot of children in the community. Why don't you become a member of parliament? I say, no, that's not my goal. I have no such view. Because it's their personal values. They just love to be kind. So those are the types of values that you see often across the table. And obviously they emerge from your religion. Values may emerge from the economic situation. If you cannot ask water from a rock, if you are not able to raise finances, you cannot also give, because in law we say nemo dat non quad non habet, nemo dat quad non habet. You can't give what you don't have. So if you are someone who does not have money, no matter how someone comes to cry in front of you, look, you don't have it. What will you do? You just say sorry and the person moves on. All right. There are also other values in politics and in logic. So obviously, your values would finally be traced to where you come from. And we say that an apple does not fall far away from an apple tree. So when the parents are kind, the child may be kind. When the parents are caring or the family have good reputation, the child grows up to want to model after such a reputation. These are all majority projections. There may be some subculture that may negate this. But ultimately also, your peer groups. They say that if you play with monkeys, your life becomes a circus. So show me your friend, I'll show you your character. Your peer groups should be able to influence your values, the institutions you work in, your role models are also important. Okay, but you see, as we mentioned, good and bad. It is very difficult to say that killing someone is bad and having integrity is good. But what becomes difficult is where there are conflicts of two good things. In other words, should I choose Ama or Ekia? Knowing very well that Ama and Ekia are good for you. You have only one choice. Which will you choose? In other words, sometimes your personal values may conflict with your professional value. In your profession, you uphold loyalty. As in politics, politics is driven by loyalty. Your personal value is to be truthful. It will conflict. And I ask the question always of my class students. If you are into politics, imagine where the name of the game is loyalty. And the one you are following is doing something bad. And as a subordinate, you are called upon to give evidence against your boss, your political boss and mentor. Your personal value is truthfulness. Will you let your personal value overshadow loyalty, which is truthfulness? Will truthfulness overshadow loyalty, or you stay loyal to your political senior or mentor? What will you do? Will you be truthful or you be loyal? Anyone at all? Truthful or loyalty? Your boss has done something very bad. You're into the realms of politics. Loyalty is the currency. They come to ask you, is it true your boss did A, B, C? You are a truthful person. Will you spill the tea, or you'll be loyal to him and tell an untruth? What will you do? Anyone? What would you rather do?
Dog.
Yes.
It depends on the case. But you see, in politics, I will be loyal to my boss. Even though I'm truthful, but this time I'll be very loyal.
Good. It means you understand the terrain of politics so well. Okay, good. Who will be truthful? Will you be truthful when you know that it can cost your political life? Will you be truthful? All right. But the point is that there are some people who think they will be truthful any day, anytime. Those people, when you enter into politics, there's little chance that you survive. But let's see. Some people are still within. We had that Tamils rise up to that rank. The learned professor of blessed memory. Okay, let's see how it pans out. But values may conflict anyway. Now, the last part is attitudes. Now, your belief system fits into your values. Now, your values will now predict your attitude. So, your attitude becomes your propensity of behavior, your propensity, a learned propensity of behavior. You know that, oh, as for this thing, if Poma was around, this is what she would have done. That's your attitude. You say, oh, as for this thing, if Anita was available, this is what she would have done. So your learned propensity of behavior toward persons becomes your attitude. So how you behave as a combination of your feelings, your beliefs, and all of that becomes your attitude. That's why at the end of the day, you can say that, oh, this person has a good attitude or this person has a bad attitude. Remember that attitude is an output. So you cannot be preaching value and be practicing vice. You can't tell me that, oh, me, I'm a good person, when your attitude shows otherwise, because attitude is the learned propensity of behavior. It's how you behave that makes your attitude. So check your attitudes clearly, because your attitude is just the behavioral expression of your values and your beliefs. You cannot say that you have this value when your attitude negates them. And the final thing we'll talk about is virtue. Virtue is your final stage of moral excellence. When you say this is a virtuous man or a virtuous woman, say that this is a woman or a man with high morals. High morals. They always choose right things, whether they are in the public or in private, whether in public or in camera. They are always doing what is right. That's what we term as a virtuous person. Would you want to be a virtuous person? Then you need to check your beliefs, how it's individualized into your values. You need to check your attitude. That's the behavioral expression of your values. Then if you always make good decisions, you always are morally upright, then we say that you are a virtuous man or a virtuous woman. And I'm sure Proverbs will add, who can find? So it's your choice today to either hold virtue, which is a moral excellence, or to dissipate it and be notorious for only doing bad things. Those are your options so to make. But in the ethics class, our view is that live a life that is worthy of virtue. That brings us to the end of chapter 2. Any questions? Otherwise, we'll go on a break and tackle our final part. We should end at, is it 3:50? But we'll go up to 3 o'clock. So don't worry at all. We'll go up to 3 o'clock. Any questions for this session? Okay, if not, it's now 2:29. I'll come back at 2:39 so that we can have some minutes with the final class. Is that okay? We'll come back at 2:39. Have a good time. We'll meet at 2:39.
Okay, Doc.
All right, welcome back to our final class on the theories of ethics. It's been a good time so far. Can I be heard? Can I be heard respectfully?
Yes, sir, we are here.
Very well. Thank you, Alita. Now, a short discussion on theories of ethics. We have now gone through and realized that as a human being even speaks or retorts on an issue, the disposition of that person in terms of his tribe, his lineage, his stereotypes, his biases, his religion, his culture, his community, his country, his workspace, what he sees as important to him and all, have an influence on what they will determine as good or bad. So, as much as such a thing is complex, we have persons of eminent nature in research who have done some work to help us explain some of the things we recognize as goodness, so that at all aspects, when you are saying, okay, I think this is bad, you need to support it by theory. And may I repeat that the theories form an essential part of responses you should be giving in the exams and elsewhere. So that when you say this is good, it's okay, it's because of this theory. When you say this is bad, there must have been a theoretical justification. What is the first? We'll look at three theories in this discussion. We'll look at the deontologist theory, the consequentialist theory, and the virtue ethics theory. What is the first? The deontologist. Their view, and this you must note it down, their view is that the means justify the ends. The means justify the ends. They are sticklers to rules. They follow the rule. So for the determination of what is good, a deontologist will tell you that what is good is a question of what is lawful. So if what the law says is what you do, and by law I'm using it in the loose sense, it could be a rule, a moral obligation, or anything. But obviously, someone must state that this is the law or rule that we must all abide by. To a deontologist, when you abide by the rule, you are doing good, irrespective of the outcome. So the ends are not really the focus. The means justifies the ends. So when I ask a deontologist whether an action is good or not, you ask you, what does the law state? It may be soft law or hard law. You say the law says this. It's okay, did you act in conformance to the law? No. Okay, you are wrong. I give a clear example. Forgive me if you are a police or related to a police. But for the police, what we see them do on the way is that they may stop your car. Do you have your driver's license? No. And you're driving? I left it at home. What did the law state? Once you're driving, you need a driver's license. Oh, is that so? Okay. Where is your fire extinguisher? It's your triangle. The law says it must always be with you. Do you have it? No. You have breached the law. It means to them you are bad. It is about abidance to the law, not necessarily the ends. So it becomes risky when you have that same deontologist having to obey rules that can stifle productive work. And I'll explain it this way. It's 1 a.m. It's midnight. There's a sick person in a taxi. 1 a.m. midnight. There are no cars plying the road. There's a sick person. And the traffic light turns red. What do you think a deontologist will do? He will stop. Because the law says red means stop, yellow means get ready, and green means you stop. Though there's a sick person. If the sick person dies, has he done good or he has done bad? Let me hear you. The deontologist. He's rushing a sick person to the hospital at midnight, around 1 a.m. There are no cars plying the road. But red means stop. And so when the traffic light turns red, he waits. No one is on the road. And the person ends up dying. Has he done good or he has done bad? Let me hear you as a deontologist. Let me hear you quickly.
So please, I think he has done nothing wrong from his opinion, being a deontologist.
Good. Why has he not done anything wrong? Is someone not dead?
Someone died, but then the law says red means stop. And since he is of the view that the law holds, he holds the law in higher esteem than any other thing, I think he hasn't done anything bad.
Excellent. Thank you, Elizabeth. That's the point of a deontologist. Red means stop. So remember, and you need to write it somewhere because it will come in handy. DS is abidance to the rules. Let's look at the second theory as we bring the conversation to a close. The second theory is the consequentialist theory or teleology. So here, the consequentialists, as they are rightly called, they believe that the ends justifies the means. So the teleologist believes that the ends justifies the means. Remember that the deontologists believe the means justifies the ends. The consequentialists or teleologists, they believe that the ends justifies the means. So if the end is good, then the means was good. So when you ask a consequentialist what is good, they'll say, okay, who benefited? Oh, 100 people benefited. Oh, is that so? How many people did not benefit? Okay, just 10. Oh, okay, right. Then what you did was good. Okay, so there's a road accident. How many people were on the left? My Lord, 30 people, 30 children. They were having a school competition. How many people were on the right? 3 old women. And the car had an option to go right or left, right? Yes, my Lord. Where did he go? He went to the left. He killed the 3 women. Oh, okay, that's fine. What he's done is good. My Lord, he went to the right. He killed the young children who were in the park, about 30. Ah, that's bad. That's how they think. So this is the end. What is the end game? They don't care about the means, but the risk associated with that is too high. Because remember that not all persons are equal. There's one person that is higher than all of us in Ghana. And what's the name of that person? Anyone can guess? There's one person whose life is important than all of us in Ghana. Who is that person?
The president, sir.
Excellent. So if there's a car that is going to get an accident, thank you, the graphs. And on the right, the president is having is playing some games, maybe a Ludo, or he's just chatting with people. Okay, the president is chatting with his wife. And on the left, there are school children, numbering about 100, playing on the field. Remember, the right is the president, the left are the school children. If the car turns right to hit the president is only one. Would that be good or bad? Would that be good or bad? Let's take that quickly. We have 10 minutes. Would that be good or bad? It turns and hits the president instead of the 30 children. Is that good or bad?
Bad.
How about he hits the 30 children and leaves the president? Is that good or bad?
Good.
Good. Excellent. So you see, one person can be bigger than 100 people. So at the end of the day, the question is it always about the ends? But why not? That's the utilitarian view, that's the consequentialist view, that's the theological theory, which talks about results and not the means. So to a deontologist, what is good is what the law says. To a consequentialist, what is good is whether or not it favors majority of the people. And majority comes into question because given who is in question, majority can mean one, like the president, or majority can mean a lot of people. And finally, we have the final part, which is the virtue ethics. And here, the focus is on the character of the person, the virtue ethics theory. Focus on who is acting. So there you need to write. The virtue ethics focuses not on the means nor the ends, but on the person. So I repeat, virtue ethics does not focus on the means or the ends, but on the person who is so acting to determine goodness. Remember, and I'll recount, that when it comes to deontology, I told you should write that for deontology, to determine what is good, the means justifies the ends. In consequentialist theory, you should write that to determine what is good, the ends must justify the means. But for the virtue ethics theory that I've directed I should write, it's not about the ends, nor is it about the means. It's about the person so acting. So if the person who is acting is good, then all his actions are good. If the person who is acting is bad, all their actions are bad. That's the judgment of goodness. So that, for example, when you see your little daughter or your daughter, however little she would be, with a pastor, and they're in the room, and your daughter is shouting, "Hey, Ajay, a pastor of high repute." When someone reports to you that, "Oh, I heard your daughter shouting, Ajay," and she's in the room with the pastor, you say, "Oh, they are having deliverance service." Oh, it's deliverance service. Because the man is virtuous. It's not about the means, nor is it about the ends. It's about the character of the person. He's wielded that power over time. So you say, Ajay means deliverance. The same scenario, there's this fraudster in your area. He engages in fraudulent behavior. He's a known, in quotes, criminal in the society. And you hear someone eavesdrop to you. "I heard your daughter shouting, Ajay, and it's in the front, the house of the man who is a fraudster." You quickly run there and conceive the thought, however erroneous, that they're engaging in a conjugal affair because you know he's a fraudster. It may well be, the limitations are that it may well be. that the fraudster may be praying for your daughter, whereas the pastor may have been praying on your daughter. I hope you get the difference. One prayer is with an A, and the other prayer is with an E. So it may well be that that fraudster in the area is praying with an A. Is praying for your daughter. And in the other breath, the pastor, who is of high moral standing, is rather praying on, pray with an E, is praying on your daughter. In other words, it could be that the fraudster is rather helping your child say a prayer to God, and the pastor is abusing wrongfully your daughter. But because of the acquired reputation over the time, virtue ethics says, remember who is acting, not the means nor the ends. You may have your own critics, and as you saw in the slides, which you should have and read, and I posted the same on the platform if you are minded, there are a lot of criticisms to this. I entreat you all to look at the criticisms of all of these three key theories in ethics, which tries to define what is good from what is bad based on their perspective. Then when we meet the next time, we may start our conversations from there. But on this note, kindly note that to determine what is good theoretically, the deontology says just obey the law. When you obey it, damn the consequences it would wash, i.e., the means justifies the ends. The utilitarian consequentialist or theologist thinks otherwise. To them, their view is that damn the means, the ends are justifiable. To it, the ends justifies the means. We don't care how you got that. The means should only satisfy the majority of the people. What are the criticisms? I've already mentioned one, that one can be greater than 1 million. The president in Ghana constitutionally is greater than 1 million Ghanaians, even 30 million Ghanaians. And it is constitutional. What can you do with that? And finally, for the virtue ethics theory, their point is simple. To determine what is good, just look at the face, if you want, of the one acting. If the person has good morals, then whatever is acting, whatever he does is good. If the person has bad morals, whatever he does is bad. As we say in law and elsewhere, you become a fruit from a poisonous tree. A fruit from a poisonous tree is also poisonous. An apple does not fall far from the tree. And so a person of high morals will seldom do bad. And a person of bad morals would always take the opportunity to perpetuate evil. Do you believe that? Read the criticisms, and when we come back next week, God willing, we should be able to determine for ourselves what the shortfalls of these theories are. Are there any questions? Then we go. Any questions? Any questions, colleagues?
Doctor, I don't have a question.
All right. Thank you, Elizabeth, and thank you, the house.
Dog,
Yes, Mama.
please, let me take you back to the KNUST secondary school head teachers issue. Since the girl is
Yes.
now saying she's 19 and all that, can GES as a body also sue the assistant head?
For what? What would they be seeking?
Oh, against the code of conduct of GES.
Excellent. Yes, they will enforce their code. The code of conduct they can enforce. But what they cannot do is to go and complain to the police that there was indecent assault because there was no crime.
Okay, then why is it that when the issue came up, and I think Nat's executive came to say that if male teachers want to have anything, they should do it with their female colleagues. I read in the news that Minister of Education Haruna, he came to state that That one even is against the law. So which is which? Or
Yes, when we say law, Haruna is a lawyer of high repute. When we say law, it includes a code of conduct. But what I'm saying is that there are some things, there are breaches of law that sends you to jail. And there are breaches of law that makes you lose your job. And there are breaches of law that make you lose both or end up in jail and also lose your job. What the gentleman did as a headmaster, as he's purported to have done, the lady was less than 16 years. And indeed, even if she was more than 16 but did not give consent, or she gave consent because she thought the man would favor her in some respect, then that is a criminal matter. And you must report to the police for the police to take it from there and charge the headmaster. And finally, he may end up in jail. But if we recognize that the lady is more than 16, and indeed she gave consent to it, not because of grace or whatever, but because she loved the man, you cannot send him to the police station. You can't charge that man. But you see, in all instances, you have breached the code of ethics, which says that you cannot have an affair with your students, and even so, you cannot have affairs with the relations of your work. So the issue of dating or having a amorous relationship is prohibited, teacher student and teacher teacher. In fact, even in the university, you cannot marry someone who is in the same department with you. And it is across the board. And I think it's the same for GS. All right. So it's just about professional conduct, the breach of which can lead to GES enforcing their sanctions. So whatever the case is, now that the lady says perhaps I'm older than 15, and indeed I may have consented, sometimes maybe that's what she may say. There's still GES that can enforce professional ethics. And the minister Haruna was right. You can't do it even with your female colleagues. It's abhorrent to the law. You get that, Poma?
yeah, I do, but anyway, I do. So it means yes, GES can enforce the code of conduct, but cannot take him to court.
Yes. They
I
can't
see.
take him to police station.
But the gender minister also ordered for his arrest.
Yes, that was when we learned that the child was less than. You know the first news that came out, right? They said the child was
Yes.
15 years. So it was based on that the child came out to say that no, she's more than. So they are requiring other things, but you can't land in jail. But that's why we are lawyers, right? He will get a lawyer. Maybe he may call me or he may call someone else and we'll go and argue. Poma, you get it. So the minister can say anything, but we have lawyers who ensure that the right thing is done. How many times haven't we heard that people say this person has stolen money and it ends up that they go to court and they don't win? Poma, you hear that, right? Yeah, so the minister
Yes.
can say what he wants. We are lawyers, we are here. Okay?
Anyway, sometimes yeah, it's law. The law is the law, so it's okay.
The one who said it is even now out of a job. So the law is the law. Okay. So we'll leave it at that, colleagues. And thank you for coming. We will meet next weekend, God willing. Just look through the slides and the course outline. On that note, I thank you for your participation. It was an interesting Saturday. We may meet sometime. Have a good time.
You too, dog. D.